This is the first of what will probably be 2 videos looking at the menus and operation of the Canon Legria HF G25, otherwise known as the Vixia HF G20 camcorder. And the reason I'm going to do 2 videos is because there are 2 main sets of functions. There are the functions that you will use while shooting, and then there are the setup functions that configure how the camera is, and I think it's going to take at least 2 videos to go through them because there are an awful lot of buttons you can press, an awful lot of ways you can configure the camera, and I can talk 19 to the dozen, so we'll see how we go. So how you get to the menus is with this button at the top. This is a touchscreen, I should point out, and Func takes you to the Functions menu. If you press the button again, it's now changed to Menu, and what you get into is the setup menus for how you'd actually like the camera configured. These are the kind of things you will set once and then not again. And you can see in turn it has 3 different sets of menus within it. There's those ones and those ones. It's not just what you see on the screen. You can scroll down and there are more. Quite a finicky little scroll screen. But let's start at the top and just briefly go through some of these. I don't know if I'll have time to go through all of them. Digital zoom is whether you want the camera to offer you more than the purely optical zoom. Do you want it to digitally enhance the picture to give you a sort of fake zoom? Well, personally, no, because it looks terrible, so I've switched that to off. What else have we got here? The zoom speed level. How fast do you want it to be able to zoom in? You just touch the button on the right and you have the choice of fast, normal or slow. The zoom lever, zoom speed, you can have it either variable, so the more you pull the lever, the faster the zoom goes, or you can have it constant, so you just pull the lever at all and it will zoom at a certain speed. You can change the zoom speed for the wireless controller. You can change your autofocus mode from being instant, as in it really snaps to focus very quickly, medium or normal, which is slower changes between focusing. I just like mine on instant because I usually only ever use autofocus to give me a sort of instant auto, and then I put it back into manual again. Focus assistance, very useful feature this. It's either on or off, and what it means is when you're using the focusing wheel, the ring on the front of the camera, it sort of zooms part of the screen to double size to help you see whether you're really in focus or not. And then as soon as you've stopped playing with the focus wheel, it goes back to normal. And it just is very, very helpful for giving you that precise focus. It sort of saves you having to zoom in, focus and zoom back out again, which you might otherwise normally do on a camcorder. Face detection and tracking, not quite sure whether this is a gimmick or not. It certainly does detect faces. I've tried it and it puts a little square around them on screen. I'm not sure whether I like it really. It does mean that in autofocus mode it will prefer, if you like, to lock on to faces on the assumption that they are probably what you want to be in focus rather than the background. So there might be some use for it. I tend to stick with manual focus myself, so I'm not too bothered about face detection and tracking. The ND filters, this is to do with exposure, currently set to automatic, but you can in fact turn them off, and ND filters are a way of stopping down the lens in really bright situations so that you can get the right exposure. I don't have a conversion lens, a wide angle lens, so that is set to off. I don't use faders. On-screen markers can be useful. You have the choice of a simple line going across the screen in white or grey, or you can have a grid, and they just give you something as a sort of point of reference to work out whether you're filming straight and level or not. I quite like having the grey one. In fact, tell you what, I'm going to put the grey one on and then we can have a look at that later and see what it looks like. A load of microphone settings here, which will only come up if you plug in an external microphone or if you have the audio setting to custom. Now, at the moment, I've got the audio setting for the internal microphones to just standard, automatic, whatever. If I had set it to custom, then some of these options would also become available. And you can change how the camera sort of processes the sound with a windscreen. It's not a real windscreen, it's a sort of pseudo one that it does in software, but you can change how it deals with it. One thing that's not really mentioned much in the manual, but you can actually change the mic terminal from being microphone level to line level. And that means in effect you can put in a stronger signal from, say, an external mixing console into the camera, which sort of negates the need for using the camera's own mic preamps, which may or may not give you a better quality of signal. It's not really much mentioned. They don't tell you what level that line level is, but I presume it's standard consumer minus 10 dB. I haven't tried it, but it's a nice option to have. It means you don't just have to put things in at microphone levels. Let's go on to the next set of settings here. I don't really use these much. A self-timer, this is to do with stills. Video snapshot, it's a sort of funny function of the camcorder that I'll never use. It's a bit like Twitter's Vine function, where you just take a short series of bits of video and stitch them all together. It's one of the functions of the camera that I will never use, but you can change how long each of those scenes are that it records. More interestingly, what recording media do you want to use? That symbol means the internal memory, but you can also say whether you want to use card slot A, card slot B, and if you do use them, whether you want them to do relay recording, that is, the camera flips from one to the other when the first one gets full, or over here, double slot recording. Because I haven't got any cards in there at the moment, it's not letting me choose that, but you can simultaneously record to both cards, so you have a backup in the case of one of the cards going bad. Recording mode, MXP is the top spec mode, gives you the shortest recording time but at the best quality, and then you have the option of all these others eventually going down to LP mode, 5 megabits per second, lots of recording time but lower quality. I leave mine on the highest quality because memory is cheap. Frame rate, 50i, that's the standard PAL setting for TV. But if you want to shoot for web, you can shoot in progressive 25. It's sort of not really progressive. It's a progressive format. I mean, it is, but it's a progressive format wrapped in an interlaced wrapper. Now, if that's all a bit technical and convoluted, that's because it is. But your editing software needs to understand how to interpret progressive 25 wrapped in an interlaced wrapper. But most modern editing software, I think, can cope with that concept. But if you're shooting for telly, if you're shooting for a DVD, stick it in 50i. If you're shooting for the web, stick it in progressive. Then there's what recording media do you want to use for your still photos? Well, it's set to the internal at the moment. What else we got? XV color. It's a different way of recording the color information. I've got it set off because, to be perfectly honest, I don't know an awful lot about XV color, and it works perfectly well in the standard. Color bars and test tone, should you want to record some color bars and test tone, you can with bars and tone like that, but there we go, not using those at the moment. The final menu in this set, and I'm sorry, I did say there was an awful lot to go through, and that's why this is going on so long, and I'm rattling through this as quickly as I can. Do you want to output the on-screen displays when you're looking at the output of the camcorder through another device, like a telly through HDMI? You might want to take the output of the camcorder through HDMI to an external recorder, in which case you don't want the on-screen displays coming through because you just want to record what the camcorder is seeing. So you can switch that on or off if you are connecting other devices. Language is fine. LCD brightness and dimmer are fairly self-explanatory. LCD mirror image means that when you flip the screen round, it will flip the thing so you can see what you're doing the right way up. That's useful to have, so I have that switched on. AV and headphones, there is a single socket on the camcorder that sends output, if you like, and you can switch it between it being video output, AV, or headphones. Well, I intend to plug headphones in when I'm recording on this, so I've left it at headphones, and you can then set the volume. Notification sounds, do you want it to beep at you when it does stuff? No, I've set it to off. Wireless remote control can be turned off, but I've left it on. The powered IS button, this is to do with the intelligent steady shot, and it's got several different modes, one of which is powered, which is supremely good if you just want to hold the camera very, very still, and you can change the function of that between toggling the powered steady shot on and then it stays on, and press it again off, or you can have it so you have to press and hold the button in while you want the powered IS on. I like to toggle it on and off, so I've got it on toggled on and off. Finally, last couple of things down here, the custom key dial. This is the button on the back of the camera that determines what the scroll wheel will do. It's the extra manual control. And you can change it between any of these options. You can use the scroll wheel to control the microphone level, the priority mode for semi-auto shooting, manual exposure, the auto gain limit, and exposure compensation, or you can turn it off. I will come to what all these mean in the other video about how to use the camera's functions. You can also then set the assign button. These are the ones here, assign 1, assign 2. As you can see, I've got mine set to auto manual focus, which is the default, but assign 2 I've set to that powered steady shot mode. So I would just press that on, powered steady shot comes on, press it again, powered steady shot goes away. White balance. I find most modern camcorders do a pretty good job of auto white balancing. Yes, they can get confused if you've got some daylight and some tungsten and fluorescence all about, but for the most part they do a pretty good job. So I leave mine in auto white balance, and if I need to tweak it a little bit in the edit afterwards, I will do that. Now the focus ring direction is to do with which way you want the focus ring on the front of the camera to operate when you turn it. That's just personal preference. You can also set its response speed here, and there is a way of doing rack focuses by presetting an in and an out point for the focus, and this sets how quickly it will do that. Most of these other things fairly self-explanatory. Time zone, date and time, HDMI outputs. I'm not going to run through everything here. That pretty much is all of the settings menu for the camcorder. What a marathon that was. Wait till we get to the next one, which is all about the options you have while filming. There's even more to talk about there. Thank you for watching.